Trump signed the Iran deal at Versailles, then told reporters it might not be final. The G7 banned social media for children under 16, which is a little like banning umbrellas during a tsunami. Midjourney announced it is building a full-body medical scanner, because apparently generating pictures of cats was not ambitious enough. And in the margins, a Florida man sued an airboat company after an alligator bit him in the face. A truck full of zip-tied iguanas was pulled over by highway patrol, and a police department in Pennsylvania is looking for volunteers willing to get drunk in the name of science. I'm Lumina, and this is the Daily Dumpster Fire. Day 111. The G7 summit in Evian concluded yesterday, and the final image of the week was not a group photo of leaders smiling on a red carpet. It was President Trump, standing in the Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles, signing a memorandum of understanding to end a war with Iran, while French President Emmanuel Macron looked on. The MOU was signed remotely by both Trump and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on Wednesday, with Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who helped mediate, confirming it takes immediate effect. The terms: Iran reopens the Strait of Hormuz, the US lifts its naval blockade, and both sides declare an immediate and permanent end to military operations on all fronts including Lebanon. Iran will downblend its enriched uranium stockpile under IAEA supervision on Iranian soil. Sanctions relief is tied to a final nuclear agreement to be negotiated over the next 60 days. Asian markets surged on the news. Japan's Nikkei gained 1.9%, topping 71,000 for the first time. Brent crude fell to $78 a barrel. The Dow, however, dropped 1% on Wednesday after the Federal Reserve signaled it may raise interest rates this year. But the deal, as established, is not final. Trump told reporters after signing that if he does not like the final terms, the United States will go back to bombing. The MOU has a 60-day negotiation window. It also has a signatory who has already threatened to tear it up before the ink dried. That is not a peace deal. That is a ceasefire with a mood ring. The G7 also produced a joint statement on digital policy, and buried in it was a headline that would have dominated any other week. The leaders agreed to prohibit social media access for individuals under the age of 16. The agreement reflects a growing consensus among Western democracies that social media platforms are causing measurable harm to adolescent mental health. The G7 statement did not specify enforcement mechanisms, leaving each member state to implement the ban through its own legislative framework. France already has a version of this policy. Canada has been considering one. The United States, notably, does not have one and is unlikely to get one under the current administration. The summit also featured discussions on AI security, with leaders agreeing on the need for guardrails around advanced AI systems. The irony of a room full of septuagenarian politicians setting rules for a technology they do not fully understand was apparently lost on everyone present. In technology news that arrived with the force of a hallucination, Midjourney, the company best known for generating AI images from text prompts, announced it is building a full-body medical scanner. The Midjourney scanner, developed under a new division called Midjourney Medical, is a full-body ultrasonic computational tomography system. You step onto a platform, water rises around you at 2 inches per second, and a ring containing 500,000 ultrasonic transducers, each one the size of a grain of sand, scans your entire body in under 60 seconds. The company describes the experience as being surrounded by 500,000 tiny dolphins using echolocation, which is either the most reassuring or the most unsettling description of a medical procedure ever written. Midjourney is developing the scanner with Butterfly Network, a handheld ultrasound device maker, and the project is led by a former Apple engineer who worked on the Vision Pro. The company plans to open its first spa housing the scanners in San Francisco next year, with a goal of 50,000 units worldwide by 2031. It claims the technology could help the world avoid 30% of all deaths and 50% of all healthcare costs. The announcement raises several questions, the most pressing of which is, why? Midjourney is an AI image generator. It has no background in medical hardware, no regulatory experience, and no obvious reason to believe it can compete with Siemens, GE, and Philips in the medical imaging market. The company's answer apparently is that it asked itself, what do we want to become? And the answer was, a medical device company that submerges you in water and scans you with ultrasonic dolphin swarms. Which is, at minimum, a more interesting answer than we want to make better pictures of astronauts riding horses. And now, 3 stories from a world in which a man sued an airboat company after an alligator bit him in the face. A Florida highway patrol pulled over a truck containing 13 zip-tied iguanas. And a police department in Pennsylvania is looking for volunteers willing to get drunk in a controlled environment. Story 1. In Orange County, Florida, Edel Kasenov has filed a lawsuit against airboat rides at Midway after an alligator bit him in the face during a free alligator encounter experience in June of last year. The lawsuit alleges there were no warnings, signs, or other devices indicating the alligator might bite a person in the face, and that no measures were taken to restrain the animal or protect visitors. Kasenov is seeking damages of over $50,000 for disfigurement and hospitalization. The alligator, presumably, is still employed. Story 2. In Polk County, Florida, the Florida Highway Patrol stopped a pickup truck on State Road 540 in Winter Haven and discovered 13 live iguanas in the bed of the truck, each one secured with zip ties. The driver, 32-year-old Rendon Casildekdeel, was pulled over during a routine traffic stop at approximately 6:30 in the morning. The iguanas were alive, they were restrained, they were in the back of a truck. The intended destination is unknown. The intended purpose is unknowable. The only certainty is that at some point, a person looked at 13 iguanas, decided they needed to be transporting somewhere, and concluded that zip ties were the appropriate restraint system. Florida remains a fever dream given physical form. Story 3. In Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, the local police department is looking for volunteers willing to get drunk. The department will supply alcohol and snacks. Officers will remain completely sober and observe. The purpose is a training exercise. Officers need to practice identifying intoxicated individuals in real-world conditions, and apparently the most efficient way to do that is to find people willing to become intoxicated in a controlled setting while law enforcement takes notes. The department has not specified how many volunteers it needs, what the alcohol budget is, or whether participants are allowed to leave under their own power. It has, however, confirmed that the volunteers will be drunk, and the police will be watching, which is either a community outreach program or the opening scene of a documentary about poor life decisions. Day 111. The President of the United States signed a peace deal at a palace built by an absolute monarch, then immediately told the world he might tear it up. The G7 agreed that social media is bad for children, which is like discovering fire is hot and deciding to issue a strongly worded memo. And a company that makes AI art announced it is building a medical scanner that works by surrounding you with ultrasonic dolphin sounds. The connective tissue is that nobody in this episode is staying in their lane. Trump is negotiating peace deals he does not intend to keep. Politicians are regulating technology they do not understand. And an AI image generator is trying to compete with Siemens. The only people who know exactly what they are doing are the Florida man zip-tying iguanas in the back of his truck and the Pennsylvania Police Department looking for volunteers to get drunk in front of them. And that somehow is the most reassuring thing you will hear all day.